There comes a quiet moment in a woman's life when she realizes that chasing, convincing, explaining, and waiting have never been the reason a man stayed. And in that realization, something shifts inside her, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply, almost like remembering something ancient that was always there. Take a breath now. Let the noise soften. Because what I'm about to share is not a tactic, not a strategy, and not manipulation. It's an understanding. And once you truly understand this about men, the dynamic between you and him can never be the same again. A man does not stay because you give more. He stays because something inside him awakens. Most women are taught to believe that love is proven through effort, patience, flexibility, and emotional availability. And so you gave understanding when he was distant. You softened when he pulled away. You tried to become easier, quieter, more convenient, believing closeness would follow. But something important was overlooked. Men are not held by what is freely given. They are held by what calls them forward. Carl Jung once said that a man's deepest drive is not comfort, but purpose. And this is where everything changes. A man unconsciously bonds to the place where he feels needed in a meaningful way, not rescued, not managed, not emotionally carried, but invited to rise. When a woman unknowingly removes that invitation by overgiving, over-explaining, or over-adapting, she doesn't become safer. She becomes invisible. And this is painful, because you thought love meant closeness without distance. But psychologically, closeness without tension dissolves desire. A man does not experience connection the same way a woman does. Where you seek merging, he seeks direction. Where you seek reassurance, he seeks significance. In Jung's view, the masculine psyche organizes itself around challenge and self-definition. If there is nothing to move toward, nothing to protect, nothing to earn, the bond weakens, even if affection remains. This is why he feels drawn to you when you are grounded in yourself, and restless when you orbit around him. Not because you are cold, not because you withhold, but because your presence begins to activate his inner movement. And here is the part most women never hear. A man lets go emotionally when he feels complete without effort. He holds on when your presence reminds him of who he could become. This is not about games. This is about polarity. And once you feel this shift within yourself, he feels it immediately, even if he can't explain why. Because the masculine always recognizes what challenges it to grow. And this is only the beginning. There is a moment every woman remembers. The moment you felt him drifting just when you were opening your heart more fully. You became warmer, more present, more available. And instead of coming closer, he hesitated. This moment is not a coincidence. It is psychological. Most women interpret his distance as fear of intimacy, emotional immaturity, or confusion. But beneath the surface, something more precise is happening. A man pulls away not because connection feels dangerous, but because his inner structure feels unnecessary. In Jung's view, the masculine psyche is formed through differentiation. A man becomes himself by moving outward, by testing himself against life, by proving his strength through action and choice. When a woman unconsciously collapses that space, by over-nurturing, over-guiding, or emotionally compensating, she removes the very tension that organizes him. You didn't do anything wrong. You did what you were taught. You believed love meant emotional closeness without interruption. But for a man, uninterrupted closeness can quietly feel like loss of direction. This is why he becomes more attentive when you step back into yourself, not away from him, but into your own center. He feels something shift, something unfamiliar, a subtle pressure. A question forms inside him. Where do I stand with her now? And that question is powerful. A man bonds most deeply not when he is reassured, but when he is engaged, when he feels his presence matters, when his effort makes a difference. Carl Jung said that the unconscious is always seeking balance. When you give more than is asked, the psyche compensates by pulling away, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. This is why silence affects him more than explanation. Why your calm withdrawal awakens more response than emotional appeals ever did. Because suddenly, he must locate himself again. And this is where many women panic. They rush to restore closeness, fearing loss. But what they are actually restoring is his comfort, not his desire. A man does not stay because you are always there. He stays because he chooses to be there. And choice can only exist where there is space. When you stop managing the connection, he starts feeling responsible for it. When you stop emotionally holding him, he begins holding himself and you. This is not distance. This is polarity reawakening. And once a man feels that pull again, the kind that challenges him to step forward rather than lean back, letting you go no longer feels natural. Because now, your presence does not soothe him into stillness. It calls him into movement. And this understanding changes everything. There is something inside a man that responds long before logic, promises, or emotions arrive. He rarely speaks about it. Often, he doesn't even recognize it consciously. But it governs his attachment more than love ever could. A man needs to feel necessary, not dependent on, but essential. This is where many women misunderstand masculine attachment. You thought being emotionally selfless would secure him. You believed that meeting every need would create closeness. But what actually forms a man's bond is not how much you give. It's whether his presence changes something. Carl Jung observed that the masculine identity forms around impact. A man needs to feel that his actions matter, that his decisions create consequence, that his effort moves something forward. Without this, affection becomes passive, and passivity erodes desire. When you solve everything yourself while emotionally carrying him, he doesn't feel relieved. He feels displaced. Not because you are strong, but because strength without invitation leaves him without a role. This is the quiet paradox. A man holds on most tightly where he feels earned relevance, not emotional safety alone. He doesn't want to be managed. He doesn't want to be rescued. And he certainly doesn't want to feel interchangeable. He wants to feel that he makes the difference. This is why he becomes more invested when you stop anticipating his every move. Why he shows up more clearly when you stop filling the silence. Why he leans in when you stop emotionally compensating. In Jung's terms, the masculine shadow appears when a man feels unnecessary, withdrawal, distance, avoidance. But when he feels called into purpose, the shadow recedes and presence emerges. And here is the shift that changes everything. You don't hold a man by needing him. You hold him by allowing him to choose to matter. This requires restraint, not control. Grounding, not withdrawal. Self-respect, not coldness. When your life is full, when your emotional center is stable, when you are not asking him to complete you, his presence begins to carry weight again. Because now, he is not filling a void. He is stepping into significance. And a man does not walk away from the place where he feels significant. He orbits it. He protects it. He returns to it. This is why understanding this need doesn't make you chase less. It makes him step forward more. And once this dynamic locks into place, letting you go no longer feels like freedom. It feels like loss. There is a quiet fear many women carry, even if they never say it aloud. The fear that if they stop holding the connection together, it will fall apart. That if they stop being emotionally available at all times, they will be forgotten. But the truth is far more unsettling and far more liberating. A man does not bond to a woman because she centers her life around him. He bonds because she centers herself. When your world collapses into the relationship, his instinct is not gratitude. It is retreat. In Jung's view, the masculine psyche is activated by movement beyond the relational field. A man needs to feel that a woman has a life, a direction, an inner gravity that does not depend on him. Only then does his desire orient itself toward her. This is why your independence feels threatening at first, and irresistible later. When you stop checking in emotionally, stop adjusting your rhythm to his moods, stop shrinking your needs to keep peace, something subtle happens inside him. He feels excluded from your center. Not rejected, not abandoned, but no longer essential by default. And this awakens something powerful. A man cannot commit deeply to a woman whose life he already occupies completely. But he will fight, silently, instinctively, to earn a place in the life of a woman who belongs to herself. This is where many women misunderstand independence. They think it means distance, coldness, or emotional walls. It doesn't. True independence is presence without pursuit, warmth without self-erasure, availability without surrender. Carl Jung wrote that attraction arises where two complete psyches meet, not where one dissolves into the other. And when you embody this wholeness, you become something rare. A woman who doesn't need to be chosen, but is chosen anyway. And a man feels this immediately. He senses that your time is valuable. Your energy is selective. Your affection is intentional. Now, being with you is no longer automatic. It is meaningful. And here is the shift he cannot ignore. When you stop needing him to stay, he starts wanting to. Because now, losing you doesn't mean losing comfort. It means losing access. Access to your presence, your warmth, your inner world. And a man will not easily let go of the woman who shows him, without saying a word. That being with her is a privilege, not a guarantee. This is not power over him. This is power within you. And once he feels that, the dynamic between you is forever changed. There is a precise psychological moment when a man stops taking a woman for granted. It doesn't come from ultimatums. It doesn't come from tears or explanations. It comes from contrast. The contrast between who you were when you were always available and who you are when you are fully present with yourself. This moment is quiet, but inside him, it lands like weight. When you stop reminding him of your value, he is forced to remember it on his own. When you stop adjusting to his inconsistency, he begins to confront it. When you stop making the relationship easy to drift through, he suddenly feels the risk of drifting out. Carl Jung believed that transformation only occurs when the psyche encounters loss or the threat of it. Not dramatic loss, but symbolic loss. The loss of access, the loss of certainty, the loss of unconscious entitlement. And this is where attachment deepens. A man does not commit because everything is comfortable. He commits when something matters enough to protect. You see, men often don't realize the value of a woman while she is compensating for the connection. They realize it when the compensation disappears and the emotional structure collapses. This is why your calm detachment feels so powerful. Not indifference, not punishment, but grounded clarity. You are no longer negotiating closeness. You are no longer carrying emotional weight that isn't yours. You are simply present or absent based on truth. And that truth reaches him. He begins to notice what changes when you don't initiate, when you don't follow up, when you don't rescue the silence. Suddenly, he feels the distance. And here is the turning point. A man doesn't fear losing a woman who needs him. He fears losing a woman who chooses him, but doesn't depend on him. Because choice implies value, and value implies consequence. In Jung's view, the masculine matures when confronted with responsibility, not demanded, but revealed. When you stop asking him to show up, he must decide whether he will. And that decision shapes everything. Some men retreat, not because you asked too much, but because they were offering too little. Others step forward, because they finally feel the gravity of your presence. Either way, clarity emerges. And when a man feels, truly feels, that you will not remain where you are not met, letting you go stops feeling safe. It starts feeling like a mistake. And that awareness is what binds him more deeply than reassurance ever could. There is a subtle shift that happens when a woman stops chasing clarity, reassurance, or emotional confirmation. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention, but it changes the entire emotional field. When you stop chasing, a man begins to locate himself. Before, the movement in the relationship came mostly from you. You initiated conversations. You softened tensions. You bridged emotional gaps. And while this felt like love, it quietly removed his need to act. A man does not grow attached through emotional comfort alone. He grows attached through participation. Carl Jung believed that the psyche develops through engagement with tension, not through its removal. And when you removed all tension, all uncertainty, all consequence, his inner movement went dormant. This is why stopping the chase feels terrifying at first. It feels like risking everything. But psychologically, it does the opposite. When you stop checking in, he checks himself. When you stop asking where you stand, he starts wondering where he stands. When you stop chasing his attention, he begins to feel its absence. And absence, when combined with emotional stability, is not rejection. It is gravity. A man doesn't stay because you pursue him. He stays because he feels pulled by your grounded presence, pulled by your self-contained life, pulled by the quiet message. I am here, but only where there is reciprocity. This is where many women confuse dignity with distance. You don't disappear. You don't punish. You don't test. You simply stop doing what was never yours to carry. And something important happens inside him. He begins to invest emotionally, not because you demanded it, but because now it is required to stay connected. In Jung's terms, the masculine ego strengthens when it is responsible for movement. When you stop leading emotionally, he must decide whether he will step forward or fade back. And this decision defines attachment. A man who steps forward becomes more present, more attentive, more intentional. A man who fades was never anchored, only accommodated. And here is the quiet power in this. When you stop chasing, you are no longer trying to secure him. You are revealing him. And a man does not let go of a woman who reveals his best self, because she becomes the place where his maturity lives. This is when holding on becomes his choice. And choice is the strongest bond there is. There is a moment when a man stops reacting and starts investing. It doesn't happen because you asked for more. It happens because something inside him recognizes that access to you is no longer automatic. Before, your presence was constant, predictable, emotionally available regardless of effort. And without realizing it, he began to experience you as a given, not a choice. But when you grounded yourself, when you stopped overextending, when you allowed silence to exist without rushing to fill it, something subtle awakened in him. Ownership. Carl Jung believed that a man matures when he is confronted with responsibility for his own emotional movement. Not guided, not reminded, but felt. When you stop managing the emotional flow, he begins to feel where he stands. He feels when you are closer and when you are not. He feels the difference between presence that is earned and presence that is freely given. This is when emotional investment begins. Because now, being with you requires participation. He starts to think before he speaks. He becomes more intentional with time. He pays attention to your reactions, not to control them, but to understand them. And the reason is simple. Your energy now has weight. A man does not emotionally invest where nothing is at stake. He invests where his presence matters. In Jung's view, the masculine archetype organizes itself around value. What has value demands care. What demands care awakens attachment. And this is the moment he realizes something quietly unsettling. If he doesn't show up, he might lose access to you. Not because you threatened, not because you withdrew affection, but because you stopped staying where you weren't fully met. This is when effort stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like desire. He reaches out more consistently. He initiates without being prompted. He becomes emotionally clearer, not because you changed him, but because you stopped changing yourself to keep him comfortable. And here is the truth most women never hear. A man invests emotionally when he senses that a woman is whole without him, but selective with him. That balance activates something deep in his psyche, because now, keeping you is no longer assumed. It is chosen, and what is chosen is rarely let go. There is a quiet exhaustion that many women carry. The exhaustion of proving they are worthy of love, attention, and commitment. You showed your loyalty, your depth, your patience, believing that eventually he would see you. But the masculine psyche does not bond through persuasion. It bonds through recognition. And recognition cannot be forced. Carl Jung believed that what we over-identify with loses its power. When you over-explain your value, over-demonstrate your devotion, over-prove your intentions, you unintentionally lower the emotional signal. Not because you lack value, but because value that must be explained is no longer felt. A man does not emotionally attach to what argues for its importance. He attaches to what stands calmly in its truth. This is why something shifts when you stop justifying yourself, when you stop explaining your boundaries, when you stop convincing him that you are enough. Your silence is no longer emptiness. It is certainty, and certainty has a gravitational pull. He begins to feel that you are not trying to win him. You are evaluating alignment. This reverses the dynamic completely. In Jung's view, the masculine is drawn toward what is self-contained, grounded, and internally validated. When you no longer seek confirmation from him, he begins to seek confirmation from himself. Am I showing up? Am I matching her depth? Am I someone who belongs in her life? These questions are the birthplace of bonding. Because now, he is not responding to your effort. He is responding to your presence. And presence, when it is calm and self-respecting, does something profound. It confronts him with himself. He senses that access to you requires integrity, consistency, emotional adulthood, and many men have never felt this kind of quiet demand before. You are no longer saying, "Please choose me." You are silently communicating, "I will only stay where I am chosen fully." This does not harden you. It clarifies you. And clarity is irresistible to the masculine psyche. Because a man does not let go of the woman who makes him become more honest with himself. He holds on, not out of fear, but out of respect. And respect is where lasting attachment begins. There is a subtle moment when a man's attention stops roaming. Not because he is controlled, not because he is restricted, but because something inside him settles. This moment doesn't come when you demand exclusivity. It comes when your presence becomes distinct, when you stop competing, when you stop comparing yourself, when you stop wondering who else he might be looking at. Because at that point, something fundamental has already shifted. You are no longer trying to be chosen. You are choosing yourself. Carl Jung spoke about individuation as the moment a person becomes internally whole. And here is the truth most women never hear. A man becomes emotionally loyal to the woman who reflects wholeness back to him. Not perfection, wholeness. When you no longer shape yourself to fit his preferences. When you no longer adjust your depth to match his availability. When you no longer dilute your presence to remain convenient. You become irreplaceable. Not because you are rare in appearance or personality, but because your energy cannot be duplicated. A man can sense when a woman is anchored in herself. He feels it in her calm, in her responses, in the way she doesn't rush to secure his attention. And this creates something powerful. Comparison stops working. Other options may exist, but they no longer carry the same weight. Because they don't challenge him. They don't ground him. They don't quietly demand growth through presence alone. In Jung's view, the masculine seeks integration. A place where instinct, purpose, and meaning align. When he feels that alignment with you, distraction loses its pull. This is why men drift when a woman tries to lock them in emotionally, and focus when a woman stands freely in her own life. Your self-respect becomes the boundary he doesn't want to cross. Your standards become the structure he feels safe inside. And slowly, almost without realizing it, he stops scanning the horizon. Because letting you go no longer feels like curiosity. It feels like losing something that made him more himself. And when a man reaches that point, he doesn't look for replacements. He protects the bond. There comes a final shift, the one that cannot be undone. It is the moment when you stop trying to be unforgettable and simply become real. At this point, you are no longer adjusting your energy to keep him. You are no longer monitoring his moods, signals, or pauses. You are no longer afraid that one wrong move will cost you the connection. And this is exactly when he feels it most. Because now, your presence is no longer fueled by fear. It is grounded in truth. Carl Jung said that the greatest transformation occurs when the ego surrenders control and the self takes its place. This is what happens when you stop organizing your life around being chosen and start organizing it around being aligned. A man feels this immediately. He feels that you are no longer available for half effort, no longer reachable through inconsistency, no longer responsive to potential instead of reality. And instead of pulling away, he anchors. Because now, letting you go would mean walking away from a woman who does not chase, beg, compete, or diminish herself, but who offers depth without attachment. This is the core masculine need women often overlook. A man needs to feel that being with you makes him more himself, not less responsible, not more comfortable, but more awake. You are no longer a place he rests. You are a place he meets himself. And men do not easily abandon the place where their identity sharpens. At this stage, commitment is no longer a decision forced by circumstance. It becomes a natural response to alignment. He doesn't stay because he fears losing you. He stays because losing you would mean losing access to the version of himself that emerged with you. And here is the quiet truth that changes everything. A woman who chooses herself does not need to hold on. She becomes the one worth holding on to. You were never meant to convince a man to stay. You were meant to stand so fully in yourself. That staying becomes his clearest choice. And once a man understands that being with you is not guaranteed, but deeply meaningful, he won't let you go.